India's neighbor Pakistan, which has been hurting India over and over again, is at a dangerous point right now. Pakistan is on the edge of a very big problem. The Afghan Taliban, since taking power, have gone against Pakistan, which was their main supporter, as they fought against the US military and the former Afghan government. The Afghan Taliban has done this by questioning the status of the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and by giving shelter to the anti-Pakistan insurgent group, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, also known as the Pakistani Taliban, which has killed thousands of Pakistanis and wants to set up a Taliban-style Shariah-compliant state in Pakistan. This has shocked Islamabad, which thought that the Taliban would owe Pakistan something for providing safe haven and for all the help it has given them over the years. But the question here is whether India should be happy about the situation in Pakistan. What if the TTP took over Pakistan, as the Taliban did in Afghanistan? What will be the consequences for India and the world if the TTP takes over Pakistan? Let's start by talking about how the TTP has gotten stronger. The depth of the TTP and Afghan Taliban relationship became evident after the Taliban's August takeover. TTP in Pakistan also underwent a rapid transformation and looks stronger than before. After the Taliban's August takeover, senior TTP leaders and a large number of fighters who had been jailed by the former Afghan government were set free by the Taliban regime. The Taliban regime also seems to have given the TTP's top leaders de facto political asylum and the freedom to move around in Afghanistan, which is where the group's violent campaign in Pakistan is run from. Following that, the TTP, which has grown in power with the assistance of the Afghan Taliban, has instilled fear throughout Pakistan, from large tribal areas to cities. Since September, TTP has carried out over 130 attacks, and it openly accepts responsibility for all attacks. In addition to the Afghan Taliban, other terrorist organizations, such as Al-Qaeda, also remained in communication with the TTP. This was a surprising result for Pakistan, given that the Pakistani government had long argued that the TTP was largely a result of the US presence in Afghanistan, combined with external support from the former Afghan government, in collusion with India. So, Pakistani officials often said that the TTP would be less of a threat to Pakistan if the US left Afghanistan and the Taliban came back. However, the outcome was different, and tensions have risen as a result of the TTP's increasing attacks on Pakistani security forces since the Taliban's takeover. This demonstrates that the TTP has regained the ability to target the Pakistan army, which drove it out of Pakistan 7 years ago. And at a time when violence has increased, the TTP and Pakistan peace talks began in August of last year, and the Afghan Taliban took center stage, indirectly acknowledging their role as mediators in the deadlock between Pakistani officials and TTP leaders. They also agreed for peace agreement. But these talks, with the Afghan Taliban as a mediator, created a potentially dangerous precedent by encouraging transnational terrorist organizations to put pressure on other regional actors to make concessions, while giving the Afghan Taliban leverage. The meeting, and the TTP's demand, indirectly aids the Afghan Taliban in achieving their expansionist position on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. As a result, after a few months of peace, last November, the TTP formally withdrew its ceasefire agreement with Pakistan. And now, the TTP has announced its government with a full cabinet. Directly challenging Pakistan's sovereignty, it announced its new appointments, dividing the outfit into various ministries, such as defense, judiciary, information, political affairs, economic affairs, education, a fatwa issuing authority, intelligence, and a department for construction. TTP's stated goals are to expel Islamabad's influence in Pakistan's federally administered tribal areas and neighboring Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, as well as to implement a strict interpretation of Sharia throughout the country. TTP leaders have also stated publicly that the group's goal is to establish an Islamic caliphate in Pakistan, which would necessitate the overthrow of the Pakistani government. Regional stakeholders such as India, Iran, China, Russia, and Central Asian states all want Afghanistan to be secure and stable. This is critical for their concerns about regional connectivity, however, but a year after the Taliban took over Kabul, the situation remains depressing. Even though the leaders of the Afghan Taliban have said they won't let anyone use their land to threaten the security of other countries, but the rise of TTP showed us otherwise. Transnational terrorism is a key concern for India, and most dialogues have been centered around counter-terrorism measures. But with the rise of the TTP, India may see a renewed threat in Kashmir. Since the Taliban took power in 1996, their Kashmir policy has largely remained unchanged. Taliban maintained the rhetoric of not interfering in Indian domestic affairs, or Kashmir, as well as promoting a good relationship with India. But the question is whether the TTP will follow in the footsteps of the Afghan Taliban. TTP's current goal is to establish Sharia throughout the country, and once that goal is met, who will be their next target? For example, after taking over Afghanistan, the Afghan Taliban's next target was Pakistan. The entire world saw this coming, except for the Pakistan government, which was blind and didn't see it coming, because it was too obsessed with India. Pakistan even provided aid to the Taliban via its democratic government, in order to completely destroy other democratic government. As a consequence of this, the Taliban in Afghanistan has now played a significant part in the transformation of the TTP, which is motivated by the Afghan Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. As the US leader, Hillary Clinton, put it so eloquently, snakes in one's backyard will eventually bite those who keep them. And this is the situation that Pakistan is currently facing, and it is a difficult one. TTP is now more powerful than ever, under the leadership of Nur Wali Masood, and he has demonstrated his strength against the Pakistani army. The Pakistani army is big, and has fought against them before. So it will be difficult for the TTP to take over. But will the Pakistani army be able to handle the situation if the Afghan Taliban joins forces with it? Similarly, several other Pakistan army-created terror organizations operate in Pakistan, which it employs against India. When these organizations join the TTP, it will be dangerous not only for India, but for the entire world. This is due to the fact that no terrorist organization on the planet currently has access to nuclear weapons. And if Pakistan's nuclear arsenal falls under TTP, it will be a terrifying prospect for the rest of the world. TTP is not just a Pakistani issue. Terrorists are another roadblock to progress. Ever since May 1998, when Pakistan first began testing nuclear weapons, claiming its national security demanded it, American presidents have been haunted by the fear that Pakistan's stockpile of nukes would fall into the wrong hands. That fear now includes the possibility that jihadis in Pakistan will try to seize power at home. And when a military conflict between the government and extremist gangs broke out, Pakistan's politics and economy were thrown into chaos. And when Pakistan is shaken, so is India, its less than neighborly rival and nuclear adversary. Pakistani jihadis come in all shapes and sizes, but the threat of a nuclear-armed terrorist regime in Pakistan has evolved from a worry to a strategic challenge that no world leader can afford to ignore. This challenge was put into carefully chosen words by the former President Barack Obama. He said, "The possibility of a terrorist group getting a nuclear weapon would be the single biggest threat to US security in the short, medium, and long term. The nation that has both nuclear weapons and a dangerous mix of terrorists was, and remains, Pakistan. Therefore, the TTP is no longer just a problem for Pakistan. It is a source of concern, not only for India or the United States, but for the entirety of the world. For this reason, let us all share the hope that the TTP will never be victorious,